Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Stephan Knobloch. I know it's a mouthful. When I started my teaching career overseas, my students would call me Mr. K, much easier to pronounce than Knobloch. While I'm no longer in the classroom, I have the distinct pleasure of still working with teachers and administrators across the U.S., helping them think through some of the challenges of the day, primarily, how do we ensure that all kids are successful? At the core of our work together over the course of the next few episodes, we're going to be challenged by understanding how best to meet the needs of every student. I thought I'd focus this series on navigating back to school and how we can use data to help chart our journey. While the journey is uncertain, our destination is clear, preparing each and every student for success, whether they're being taught in the classroom or they're learning at home remotely. As educators, we've got a tremendous responsibility. Now more than ever, we need to collaborate and learn from and with each other and the students and families we serve. Knowing what works and what doesn't work is critical. So how can we tell what's working and what's not working? That's where the data comes into the picture. I like to use a simple formula. C times I plus A equals O. Content times instruction plus some assessment will get you higher outcomes. So that content is your standards-based curriculum. It's the what we teach. The instruction, the good instruction, is the how we teach. It's how we know what's working, those effective strategies. Some people like to reference John Hattie's work. I think it's great, but those are some of the strategies we're going to talk about. Assessment, that's where progress monitoring comes in. We use that data to know whether or not students are getting it or not. And finally, those outcomes. How you measure your outcomes. Most of the times we look at test scores, right? Sometimes it's graduation rate, sometimes it's proficiency. But those outcomes, what's really important to parents, to kids, is whether or not kids are growing, whether they're learning. So that formula, C times I plus A equals O, will be one of our guides throughout our journey together. So each part of that formula has data associated with it. And that data that helps us inform our decisions will be what we look at and how we collect it and analyze it through these sessions. You know, we're all surrounded by data. We're barraged with data. Every piece of technology that we use is collecting data. Our observations that we see of kids, of other teachers, of our family, those are data points. We're reading things and we're reacting to them. But not all data is important. Sometimes we have to think twice whether or not it's really worth our time. So, for example, the information that you read in print, or maybe what you're hearing in a podcast or a video like this one, you have to decide, is this a nice to have or a need to know? For those of you who are looking at your latest picture on Instagram or TikTok, is it entertainment or educational? And what about those tables and graphs of student test scores? Are they simply informational and interesting, or are they actionable? Can we do something with the information? Data analysts like to describe the data as being noisy. But if you look closely, if you get to the root, you'll find the true signal. That is, what's important and what needs attention. In short, again, not all data is valuable. So how do we decide what's valuable and what's not? That question is at the heart of this series. Our first episode, Data That Counts and Measures That Matter, will focus on the simple formula that I shared, and I'll explore some important questions that we're probably all asking ourselves. Questions like, where do I start my lessons after this long closure? You know, kids have been out of school for 4 months. It'll be close to 5 months before they come back. There's going to be a bit of a gap. Where do I start? Second question is, how do I decide which resources will help my students, whether they're in the classroom or at home? How do I know whether or not those resources are actually having the effect that I want? What are some ways that we can monitor student progress? You know, that assessment piece. Are there some tips and tricks that we can learn from each other about how do we measure learning? And then finally, what data will I have in my hands to know whether or not students have mastered a standard, a skill, or a concept? Those are just some of the questions we're going to be answering in that first episode. Throughout our journey together, I'll share some strategies and practical ways to gather and analyze data that I've learned throughout my teaching career. I'm sure you have tips and tricks to share as well. So let's stay connected as we head back to school. Share your thoughts and ideas or questions by typing them in the comment below. I'll be sure to get back to you. I look forward to navigating this journey with you. Until next time, keep preparing for back to school. It's going to be a wild one. It'll be one like no other. Thanks, and happy travels.